Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Aisha Nazir. The topic of today's lecture is latency, throughput, and response time. All these three words are used interchangeably, but what is the main difference between all these terms? Where does we use the term latency and the response time? Let's explore. So, latency, response time and throughput. Latency, response time and throughput is used to measure the performance of the system. These are used in CPU scheduling. These all three terms are used in CPU scheduling. Latency should be always low, while response time should be quick, faster or high. In the same way, throughput also should be high. But what are all these three terms are? The first one, latency. Giving an input and producing an output. The time between converting from input to output, the time consumption is known as latency. The delay or gap of milliseconds of converting input to output is known as latency. Latency must be low. It means that the input should be converted into output in very less time. If latency will be high, then it will cause problems and slow down the system. Processor perform processing. We all know that. It takes time. This is called the time consumption by the processor is known as latency, means how much time the processor take to process the information, to convert the input into output, to produce the output. What's the time it takes? This is known as latency. For example, online gaming. Latency should be low. It's the best scenario. In the online gaming, you know that in online gaming there are multiple users in the same online game like PUBG and Free Fire and many more, where the player plays games online. In online gaming, every player has to respond to one another, and they proceed the game in such a way that the output of one player will be the input of other player. So if there is a delay between the one player response, then the other player who is in waiting state will have to also be wait, which cause the overall delay in the game. The other example is mobile phone application. We open different mobile phone applications. It takes a few seconds to open the application. But what if we have to perform multiple tasks simultaneously on multiple different applications? For example, if we want to transfer the money, or if we want to withdraw the money, or manage security related tasks. So in this scenario, the processor has to respond us quickly. Will be high. If the latency or the response time would be high, then there could be security issues. In the same way, fiber optic cables that are very fast and travel in the light speed, their latency rate is always very low. In the same way, when you often see the newscaster, they are interviewing the other persons on live sessions. So basically, they broadcast the news. So first, the question goes from anchor to the satellite, and from satellite it goes to the other person who have to give the answer. So if there is much more delay, then that will cause the problem and hang the system. So in this way, the latency should be very low so that the online systems can work properly. So hopefully you understand the concept of latency. Latency means the time takes by the processor of producing the output after taking the input. So this is the latency. But what is response time? When we load a process in memory, it's in ready state and it requests for CPU. So response time is after how long processor first time allocated to process. When it is in ready state. It means when the processor is in ready state and it's requesting for the CPU, then after how much time it was first, the CPU first, the processor first allocated to the process to perform the processing. This is called the response time, means how much time it takes to respond to the process. Different algorithms are used for scheduling of CPU, as the most famous are first come first served, means the processes which comes first they served first, means the processor allocated them first. Shortest job first scheduling, it means the job which is shortest, it will be served first. Priority schedule, or we prioritize the tasks and according to the priority we assign the processor to the task. Round robin scheduling, and there are many more. So in short, the response time is when the processor, the CPU is allocated to the task for the first time. How much time it takes. When the task comes in ready state, how much time it has to wait for the CPU. How quickly the processor responds to the task. This is called response time. After that, the third one is throughput. The next is throughput. Throughput ensures the efficiency of CPU. Throughput is basically how many processes executed by the CPU at the given time frame. It means number of processes executed in given time is known as throughput. For example, if we have 4 different processes, 4 different tasks, the first process consumes 23 seconds, the first process consumes 3 seconds, the second process consumes 4 seconds, the third process consumes 5 seconds, while the fourth process completed in 4 seconds. So, how much time consumes by each process? So, 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 and then divided by 4. So, the average is 4 seconds, means each process consumes 4 seconds to complete its task. This is throughput. So the main difference between the latency, response time and throughput is these all terms are used interchangeably, but the main difference is latency deals with time delay that occurs due to any reason. So what is the time delay? It's the latency. While response time is the request for some resource and the fulfillment of the request, that how much time it takes to fulfill the request. This is the response time of CPU. While the throughput is how much time consumed by each task from a given total time. So hopefully you understand the concepts and the difference between all these three terms. Thank you very much.